ونشهد أن سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. وبعد. All praise belongs to Allah, Lord and Sustainer of the worlds, the seen and the unseen. Praise Allah, and we thank Him for all of His blessings. We thank Allah Ta'ala for sending Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, His last and final messenger to all of humanity. And we are truly blessed, beloved brothers and sisters, to be a part of the ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, which means that we are counted amongst his followers. This way, Allah Ta'ala has honored us. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has said, that true surrender to Allah suffices as a blessing. That it is a blessing and it suffices as a blessing. So we pray for the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and we bear witness that he fulfilled his obligations. The message of Allah. We pray for his family members, known as Ahlul Bayt, who were his first and most ardent supporters. We pray for his companions who surrendered themselves to their Lord and were inspired by the example of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we pray for all of the subsequent generations of followers who follow the Muhammadan way. And among those predecessors are the people who came before us, who preceded us in Islam, because they represent a part of the chain of continuity. And we must never forget this, because in this is a blessing for us if we take care of it. We have people who came before us, and that they told us the right thing. They taught us the right thing. But not only that, they attempted to show us how to live right through their example. And these are our predecessors. Many of them are our mothers, our fathers, our grandmothers, our grandfathers, our uncles and our aunties, our elders who preceded us in Iman, who preceded us in faith. The men and women that if you were a little kid, boy or girl, and you saw your elders moving about in the community, before you grew up and had your own thoughts about how things are or how they should be or whatever, Allah put in front of you people. This is a blessing because our predecessors are in that chain of people who followed the example of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One of the mistakes or one of the ways that we can neglect this gift is not to recognize it. One of the ways that we can be dismissive of this blessing is if we say our predecessors are over there somewhere, outside of our societal context, outside of our cultural context. Our predecessors, the Muslims, are the people who came before us, but they were overseas. They're not here. They weren't here. This is a form of negligence. It is a form of being blind to an obvious blessing. Because by Allah, were it not for the sacrifices and the commitment and the sincerity of our elders, we would not be Muslim. Some of us in this room, myself included, can remember a time when Philadelphia had a few masjids. Literally, you could count them on one hand. And now, when you look at the progress, at least the progress of the communal development in numbers, we have masjids all over the city. We have Muslims all over the city. And this is not a mistake. It's not a mistake for someone to call themselves a Muslim. That's not a mistake. That is what's supposed to happen. And it happens by the permission of Allah. But it's never a mistake. It's not a fad. It's not supposed to be a fad. It's not supposed to be something that you just do because everybody else is doing it. No, Islam is how you are supposed to situate your life. Because Islam means that you surrender to the will of Allah. And so for us to have people who came before us, who showed us how to do that. Because Islam is not a conversation that we have. It's not some hip rap, some talk that we engage in. Islam is literally how we live after we have guidance, after we know better, after we know how we are here and where we are going. Islam is what we choose to do when we have that knowledge. That is Islam. Islam is not clothes that you wear, although that is a popular thing. It's a popular thing for people to want to wear Islamic dress. And it's an okay thing in some instances. But Islam is not clothes. Just like Islam is not a diet. Just like it's not, words that we use that we're familiar with in the clique. It is how we govern ourselves and choose to live our lives because we have guidance. This is what the Prophet ﷺ meant. He said, if you understand this, it suffices as a blessing. Because you know why you're here. You know what you're supposed to be doing while you're here. and you know where you're going. That is the most powerful knowledge that you can have in your possession. That is the most powerful knowledge, because that is the most basic question that every human being needs an answer to. Why am I here? Am I here to eat? Am I here to drink? Am I here to have sex? Am I here to party? Am I here just to be here? Am I here to make money? Am I here to hurt people? Am I here to dominate people? Why am I here? Why am I alive? Where did I come from? Where am I going? The people who were here with me, and now they're no longer here. Where did they go? Allah gives us guidance that answers all of those basic questions. And when you have that knowledge, that is a gift to you from Allah. And so this is why we must cherish the people who came before us, who Allah gave this knowledge to, and they lived their lives a certain way. Because it showed us that we must choose to live our lives a certain way. What way? Where Allah wants us to live. So the blessing of having predecessors is a huge blessing. And we must always be mindful to pray for the people who came before us. Because it's more than just, as I mentioned, the clothes, the diet, the breath. It's life, how you live, and what you prepare for what's to come. One of the simplest ways that we can do this, honor those who came before us, is to pray for them. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's a prayer that the companions were taught to say. رَبَّنَا اغْفِرْ لَنَا وَلِإِخْوَانِنَا الَّذِينَ سَبَقُونَا بِالْإِيمَانِ. Oh, our Lord, forgive us. Forgive our brothers and sisters who came before us in faith. وَلَا تَجْعَلْ فِي قُلُوبِنَا غِلًّا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Do not put in our hearts any type of animosity. One of the truly tragic things that happens sometimes in many communities is people turn their backs on their ancestors and their elders. They're living in the moment, so they forget that they had people who came before them, who passed the baton to them, who put them in a position to go further in the race because of their sacrifice, because of their giving, because of their deeds, because of their prayers. One of the truly tragic things is that we come along, I come along, and dismiss everything that they did, right? Instead of embracing it and asking Allah to forgive them if they made mistakes, and accept whatever good they did. All of the messages that we have, and some of the oldest messages, there were people who were around who did stuff. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses the community to grow, and with that growth comes responsibility. With that growth comes responsibility, which is why you hear me ask. Whenever I travel and people find out, oh, you're from Philly, wow, I got a lot of Muslims. The Muslim presence is there. And y'all know it's true, it's Muslims everywhere. There are people who've been Muslim for 3 generations. Grandfather, father, child, and then there's the child. And then 4 generations. There's a deep history, a deep roots in Islam in this city. But that means nothing if the people who have this blessing don't recognize it as a blessing. And part of how we recognize it as a blessing is that we make dua for the people. We know who they are. We pray for the Sahaba, of course. We pray for the Tabi'een, of course. How can we not pray for our grandfathers and grandmothers? How can we not pray for our fathers and mothers? How can we not do that? How can we neglect to do that? So we must remind ourselves constantly of this. This day of Jumu'ah is a day of reminding. We strive to do this. Make prayer for them. Ask Allah to forgive them. Ask Allah to give us a little bit of what they have. This is all in our favor. Inshallah, brothers and sisters, I want to say a few words today. Repeat a theme that we bring up every once in a while, and that is the theme of foundational knowledge. The importance of it, especially how it relates to the growth of the community and the development of our community. One of the things that we've been hearing from many of the imams, right, given the khutbah, is that these are trying times. Some would argue that this is a time of fitna. If you're familiar with the word fitna means, one of the meanings is confusion. And if you're paying attention, you would say, there's a lot of confusion. People are confused about a lot of things today. About things that if you grew up and you're now a young adult, it wasn't confusing to know the difference between some things. And now, in the name of progress, we're dealing with a different set of circumstances where people are literally confused. People are confused about gender. People are confused about justice. People are confused about some basic things. And the Muslims are with the people who are confused. Many Muslims are confused about what it means to be Muslim. Some people think that being Muslim means that you're a part of the club. You're with the in-group. And they forget that Islam is your personal responsibility first before Allah. They forget that. They've been doing it so long, they forget. I have to answer to Allah for what I do. Basic thing. One of the symptoms of confusion is all of this focus on how people look. Something that has in this city really broken up masjids, broken up communities, broken up families. People debating and arguing over facial hair. One brother has a bigger beard than another brother. Stove is too long. All of these things that don't matter in the context of what we will be asked about. They're somewhere in some fiqh book somewhere, but they don't matter when it comes to what you are responsible for before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so Allah tells us in the Quran to remember that one of the characteristics of living and experiencing time is that people will always this will always be a symptom. This is not a new thing. It's new in our experience. But human beings always experience this sense of loss and confusion. Always, every generation. It's just different. When you read Surah Al-Asr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says it clearly. Wal-Asr. Inna al-insana lafi khusr. by the passage of time, verily human beings are at a loss. Always. Innal insana lafi khusr. Allah didn't ask a question. He said something very clearly and emphatically. That humanity is lost. Why? Because if humanity turns its back on God, humanity is lost. Even if humanity is saying, we're good, we're civilized, we're making progress, we're doing this, we're doing that, we figured it out, we got it right, without guidance from Allah, human beings are lost. By this, Allah swears. And Allah can swear on this because He created human beings. So who are the ones who are not lost? Who are the ones who are saved? إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Only people who have a chance for salvation are the ones who believe. Believe that they have a Lord. One of the first causes of loss or being lost is when you turn your back on your Creator. Because your reality, my reality, is Allah created me, and then He gave me a blueprint for how to navigate this. And if Allah has blessed me to recognize that I have a blueprint called the Quran, I have a chance at salvation. But if I turn my back on the guidance, then I'm like everybody else. Lafi khusr. You start with belief and what that necessitates. Not just, saying I believe, but living as if you believe. As if you believe what? That you came from Allah. Where are you going back to, brother? You're going back to Allah. That's what happens when everyone dies. Go back. They continue on the journey back to Allah. This is what we say we believe. So when we go to a janazah, we say Salaam alaikum for the final time to our loved one, to our friend, to our companion, to our homie. Right? We say goodbye. Where are they going? They're going on back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, part of how this message will hit you the way it should, because I think that sometimes in America, we act like we have an immunity from death because it hasn't gotten me yet. So, I'm safe. I'm good because I haven't died yet. We don't want to think about it. And the reason that we don't want to think about it is because if we begin to think about it, it makes me realize, okay, I got to prepare for this. I say I believe in Allah. I read the Quran. I'm going back to Allah. Am I ready for that? Am I getting ready for that? Am I thinking about that? So, alhamdulillah, many of you know, I was just on Hajj. And I was telling my brother, we were in the masjid, in the Kaaba, right? And one of the things that always happens that you hear a janazah prayer after most of the salahs. So on a day where there was a janazah prayer after every salah, see, here in our context, the janazah is an event that we show up at. You get the little thing on the internet, oh, so-and-so died, oh, my man died, oh, okay, I'm going to go to the janazah. And that's a different type of engagement with the janazah. Then when you are in prayer, you make the congregational prayer, and immediately after the taslim, the mu'adhin says, as-salatu ala al-mayyit. Now we're making a janazah prayer for a person who died. Or the person says, the mu'adhin says, as-salatu ala al-amwat. That means what? That means what? More than one person has died. And even when you hear that, how many people died? after every salah. So the day we were in the mosque, me and one of the brothers, right? You know, we're taking a break from the tawaf, and I look over in this open space in front of one of the major doors of the Grand Mosque. And I see that there are bodies on slabs that have been washed and prepared for the janazah prayer. And I saw that there were bodies. So I counted them. I counted 27 bodies. And they weren't just adults. They weren't just full grown. So they had the long slab. That little children died too. So I said to the brother, man, how many bodies do you think are over there? He said, about 15, 16. I said, man, I'm counting 27. And they took all of them down to the Kaaba for the Imam to make the Salah. The 27 necessitated that the Imam make 2 janazah prayers instead of 1, back to back. And what that image said to me was, you know, we play around with that. Because me and the brother are here making tawaf, 27 souls went back to Allah after 1 salah. Because that's what's going on. That's what Allah said is going to happen. That's why people tell you, stop wasting your life because you have no guarantees. You don't know when it's your turn. Leave here all the time. And when they leave, they don't take anything with them because they can't. So when I leave, no matter what I acquired, no matter what I amassed, no matter what I did, people will forget about it, and I can't take anything of it with me. So while I might grind hard for what I want, I can't get so attached to it because you know what? I can enjoy it while I'm here, but when it's time for me to go, I can't take any of it with me. And even if I did, even if they dug a grave wide enough, deep enough for me to take stuff with me, guess what? I can't go to Allah and say, Allah, I got this watch. I know I didn't live right, Allah, but I got these sneakers. I got this belt. I got this bling, I got this jewelry, ya Allah. Come on, man. My jeans are fresh. I can't do any of that. The only thing that will matter for me is what Allah said, what the Prophet ﷺ taught us will matter. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. You believe, and then you follow that proclamation, that profession up, or that admittance or that statement, you follow it up with action. You act like you believe. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. And they remind one another that they call each other to truth, and they call each other to perseverance. We have to pursue truth. We have to then persevere. It's one thing to pursue the truth, and it's another thing to stick with it. Stick with it how? You learn how to pray, and then you got to keep praying. Even when it's hard to keep praying. You got to strive and struggle to keep praying. Why? Because there's no benefit to your claim of belief if you don't pray. Don't give charity. If you don't try to be kind and compassionate, if you don't try to do some of the things that the Prophet ﷺ was sent to show you how to do, not to tell you. Because when you read the seerah, and if you study the hadith a little bit, you will know that the hadith is not only what the Prophet said to us, it's what was documented about how he lived. And you and me, we got to try to do a little bit of that if we are to be sincere. If we are to be sincere, we have to try to do a little And this is when you must persevere. You must persevere through people looking at us like, man, you crazy, man. What are you doing? People laugh at you. They might ridicule you. People might literally laugh in your face. Call to your mind that the Prophet ﷺ, when he first was called to spread the message, he introduced this notion to his people that instead of praying to a physical idol, they had to make their prayers to something abstract they couldn't see. Allah. With no intermediary. And they thought that was the craziest thing. And so when he would go, as is documented in the Sirah, he would take the companions and they would go pray in front of the Kaaba, and people would stand around them and point at them and laugh. He's not praying to Allah. He's not praying to Al-Uzza. And all that. What is he doing? Who is he praying to? They would laugh. Fast forward to you and me, that means that a part of what I might have to persevere through is people not understanding me. People laughing at you. Because you can do whatever you want. You live in a context where you can do whatever you want, supposedly. And you choose not to do something. Who's around? Who's going to say anything? Just do it, man. And you develop the consciousness to say, no, I'm not doing that because Allah said not to do it. To some people, that's crazy. You're not crazy. Like Allah told the Prophet, Ma anta bi ni'mati rabbika bi majnoon. Because what did they say about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Man, that dude is crazy. He's calling us to insanity. We already got it. We got to take it out. Right? So, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ is the constant reminder that without this guidance from Allah, we also can lose our way. Part of how we protect ourselves from losing our way is that we actively learn what we're supposed to do and build on it. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes a clear distinction between the people who know and the people who don't. He says, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, أَمَّنْ هُوَ قَانِتٌ آنَاءَ اللَّيْلِ ساجدا وقائما يحذر الآخرة ويرجو رحمة ربه قل هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون إنما يتذكر أولو الألباب. He says by the translation, or do you deem yourself equal to one who devoutly worships Allah throughout the night, prostrating himself or standing in prayer, ever mindful of the life to come, saying, can they who know and they who do not know be deemed equal? A part of what this verse is saying, imagine someone who's living heedlessly, and then someone who does what Allah mentions in this verse. They devote their part of their night to prayer, asking Allah for forgiveness, asking Allah for salvation, asking Allah for guidance. And both of them, well, the one who's doing that is doing it because they have the knowledge that this stuff will be of assistance for them when they go back to Allah. And the person who's living needlessly does not. Because they neglected it or they ignored it. And Allah is saying, not asking, are they the same? He's saying they're not the same. قُلْ هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. And the knowledge that impels the person to stand at night is the basic knowledge that they understand where they came from, why they're here, and where they're going. And what's going to happen when they get back to Allah. They understand this. This is the foundational knowledge around which you must build your Islam. And it is obligatory. You must not only know how to pray, you must know why you must pray. You must not only know how to give zakah, you must know why. You must know the fundamentals of your religion. You must know the fundamentals of your belief. And believe me, a lot of people go through the motions of being a Muslim because they've neglected to secure that foundation. And this is a phenomenon that's growing. Because Shaitan plays games with people and, you don't have to pray like that. It's not that deep. It's not that deep to learn some surahs. Even though your prayer is not accepted unless you know some surahs. The Prophet ﷺ has said to encourage us that the one who takes a path leading to acquiring knowledge, Allah will ease his path to paradise. So to motivate us to seek out this fundamental, foundational knowledge, the Prophet ﷺ says that if you step on that path, it's not a lot that you have to do. But you have to do enough to get that foundation in place. Right? And if you do that, Allah will make ease a path for you to paradise. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, to attend a teaching session is better than to pray 1,000 rak'ah. When you show up to learn in any learning space, that is more beneficial for your soul than making 1,000 rak'ah that you aren't consciously paying attention to. You know how I stand up here sometimes and I tell you that the elders used to tell us when we were saying for salah, don't just bang your head on the floor. Because you can literally make a salah where you just not consciously engaged in the prayer. Those are two different prayers. So for you, the hadith makes sense when you think about the fact that if you show up in a learning space and you learn not just how to pray, but why, and what you should try to do to prepare yourself for prayer, and this then improves your consciousness of prayer, you pray the prayer that you need to pray. Your prayer is your lifeline. And this knowledge of salah, zakah, of the hajj, of Ramadan, of iman, of the knowledge of Allah, the knowledge of the Prophet ﷺ, all of this knowledge is your protection against ignorance. So you should know, beloved brothers and sisters, that there are different types of ignorance. You have ignorance and then you have compounded ignorance. So you have people who are ignorant, and they're ignorant because they don't know any better. And then and they're willing to learn. And then compounded ignorance is when you're ignorant and you know you're ignorant and you don't care. This is a terrible state because it will explain why things are out of order, things are in disarray. It hardens the heart when you are ignorant. As one of the poets said, ignorance is death before death. It's death before death because your body is a tomb, your body becomes a tomb before your tomb. Because your heart is dead, your heart is dark, there's no light, so So it's as if you're dead. You're just walking around, eating, drinking, doing stuff. Without the light of knowledge, this is what happens. I want to read a hadith very quickly of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, as a reminder of the big picture, O people, it seems that this hadith is reported by Anas. He said, O people, it seems as if we are exempted from death. Imagine the Prophet ﷺ was saying this to his companions 1,400 years ago, 1,500 years ago. Imagine him saying this, because sometimes we have this idea that the companions were angels. They were all the same, they all know. The Prophet was talking to people and saying to them, sometimes y'all act like you're exempted from death. And as if this life, as if truth in this life is incumbent upon other than us. And as if those dead people whom we escort to their final resting place are travelers who will return to us very soon. We lay them in their tombs, and then we devour their inheritance as if we were immortal after them. We forget all the exhortations. We feel secure from any strife. May goodness come to the person who is minding his own faults and keeping away from others' faults. May goodness come to the person who spends wealth which he acquired legally and mixes with learned and wise people and mixes with the poor and the downtrodden. May goodness come to the humble and the high-mannered and the good-hearted and the one who keeps his evil deeds away from people. May goodness come to the one who spends his extra wealth and withholds his extra talk and is satisfied with the sunnah and not attracted to heretical innovation. Just a point of clarity on that part. Heretical innovation. Because it's popular in our Islamic culture here in the city that we misuse the word bid'ah. Like everybody knows this now. It's like, that's a bid'ah, you can't do that, that's a bid'ah. The heretical innovation here that the Prophet ﷺ is referring to in this hadith is when you substitute another form of guidance for what Allah has given you. So we live in a time where people have enlightenment, so to speak, right? And so they may pursue spiritual paths that don't necessitate that they pray. They're enlightened. They meditate, they breathe, they chant, they have a guru, and they do stuff, and they engage in some form of spiritual discipline, absent surrender to Allah. That is a form of a heretical innovation, and may Allah protect us from that. Because sometimes a person can think that what they have, what Allah gave them, is not good enough. So they pursue other paths. And this is how people get lost. If you have experienced that, or if you know someone like that, you should have compassion. Because it's easy for that to happen because of how we operate. Especially if we don't protect ourselves. But we should also know that this is possible. Especially if we don't hold on to the guidance and treat it as what it is. It's for our salvation. So, what I said, beloved brothers and sisters, inshallah, is to encourage us to, constantly refresh our knowledge, to learn, to pursue, to read, to grow, to invest in our growth, to invest in our development, our spiritual development. Don't get too comfortable with where you are. Don't get too comfortable. Right? Don't rest on your laurels. I got 35 years in the game, man. I've been praying for 35 years. Inshallah, if you want to keep praying, you got to keep. It's not over until you check out. So don't get too comfortable. Don't get too full of yourself. Don't blow yourself up with arrogance, so much you're looking down on other people because somehow you reach a point. You're with the right sheikh, or you have the right, knowledge, or you reach the right rank, or you understand, and those people they don't know what they're doing. This is one of the ways that Shaitan can play with you. Have you puff up with arrogance, and you forget that wherever you are, Allah took you there. This should humble you. So embrace humility, embrace gratitude, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect you and keep you on the straight path. You will do that. ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات في كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد طيب الطاهر الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Brothers and sisters, we are often told, especially from this memoir, I know for me, I don't need to sound the alarm and life is over. It's really just to remind us not to take things for granted, not to be deceived by numbers. Is in good shape, but really a call for us to look at ourselves through a lens of reality. And it's very easy to do that because when you look at some of the things that happen in our community that are indicative of the absence of understanding what Islam really is. I mentioned the clothes phenomenon because that's one of my favorite things. People think that if they dress up, that they're good. Right? Or brothers, we wife up. Wife up, I got more than one wife, man, you doing the sunnah, bro. Come on, man. Wow. Or any of the other things that are really, really superficial. To do to strive, to do some real work on our souls. Right? You hear, it's to call our attention to that. Because we are living in a time of turmoil. A time when what we perceive as leadership, people are doing all kinds of stuff in the name of Islam. All kinds of things. People are confused that they forget Islam is our religion, not our politics. And in politics, people are doing all kinds of things. I don't have to tell you. But that don't have nothing to do with my salvation, my politics. Allah's not going to ask me, so what were your politics? Islam is not our culture. And we have a culture here. And we should never abandon our culture unless it's not good for us and adopt someone else's cultural Islam. Because Islam is not culture. Islam is deen. We have to be clear about this. And this city is one of the places where culture shows up in so many ways. We call it Islam. Right? And we have to understand that we have some big challenges ahead of us. The biggest challenge is that we strive to live a balanced life. To follow the example of the Prophet. In this time, we follow the example of the Prophet. These are times that call for a refocusing and a reconnecting to our spiritual tradition, to our most basic values of love, caring, dignity, sacrifice, and integrity. This is a time when we must learn to walk with faith and be courageous enough to be different. Because at That takes courage to be different. And I'm not talking about wearing a kufi, but acting different. Standing on principle. That takes courage. Because you'll be criticized, and as I mentioned, maybe even ridiculed. But it's an all hands on deck type of situation. Especially if we want to see the change that we say we want. Any type of change comes as the result of this focused devotion. So our biggest asset is our dua. That's our biggest asset. It's bigger than any money that we can put together, any building that we can put up. All this stuff is easy relatively to do in America. And just coming from Hajj, I can tell you, brothers always say, I want to go overseas, I want to do this and I want to do that. I talked to a brother while I was on Hajj. They still disappear people over there. If you say the wrong thing, you will be gone. I can get on this member. I've never felt on this member, well, maybe these days, I don't know. But I never felt like, oh man, I said something and somebody's going to snatch me up. Because Allah didn't put us in that type of context. We don't have religious police going around beating us to be Muslim. We're Muslim because we say we want to be Muslim. That's a different type of blessing. Right? But our dua is, as the Prophet said, dua. So I want to make this dua, inshallah, before we pray. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from us the good that we put forward for His sake. Us, to remove from us the burden of any sinful behavior. Oh Lord, we ask that you hear our prayers. You hear the prayers of the spiritually tormented. Oh Lord, we ask for your protection in our spirit. Keep us away from deviance, disbelief, and hypocrisy. Help us, oh Lord, learn how to restore and repair our souls. Bless us with increase in our iman. Bless us to remember to turn back to you whenever we go astray. Allah, away from the edges of extremism and gently nudge us towards the center. The path that leads to you, O Allah, is straight. Keep us on it and let us be satisfied with it. Teach us, O Allah, to love you, to trust you, to rely on you, to heed your warning, to respond to your calling, to accept your graciousness, to remember your kindness, to respect your vengeance, to be satisfied with you and include. Lift us up, O Allah, when we fall. Heal us when we hurt. Remind us when we forget. Repair us when we are broken. And let us not forget that you are our Lord and our salvation is with you. Be pleased with us, O Allah, and let us not taste a moment of your displeasure. O Allah, you know that there are those amongst us who are struggling with addiction. Free them, O Allah, and heal them, O Allah. There are those among us who are alone and lonely. Fill up their hearts, O Allah, and replace the emptiness with fulfillment. There are those who are unemployed. Help them to gain employment and find a way to clean up their money, to clean up their lives, to live their lives with their heads held up with dignity. There are those who are struggling among us, O Allah, to get off the street, to live a different way. Grant them the courage to make a decision to change their lives and to trust you fully. Offerings, our repentance, our reflections on this blessed day of Jumu'ah. Your gifts to us, O Allah, are tremendous, and we humbly accept them and we strive to honor them. O Allah, we ask you to help us to remember when we forget, and to forgive us when we astray, and to help us read your signs. SubhanAllah, حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله استووا يرحمكم الله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. إذا زلزلت الأرض زلزالها وأخرجت الأرض أثقالها وقال الإنسان ما لها يومئذ تحدث أخبارها بأن ربك أوحى لها يومئذ يصدر الناس أشتاتا ليروا أعمالهم فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.